So I say the soul of Star Wars, or what Star Wars is right now, is Mandalorian, and Book of Boba Fett really butchered that show. And because of that, the setup for Season 3 Mandalorian is gonna fucking suck. And I think that is gonna kill Star Wars, aka the soul, which was Mandalorian. Now let's get to my first point on why I think Book of Boba Fett killed the soul of Star Wars, or Mandalorian. These 4 episodes were really tough to sit through. The opening part of the episode was pretty good. It was sick seeing his ass come out of the Sarlacc pit, but then we see Boba get hit in the head by a jaw, and I can't help but think that was a subtle way of the writers telling us that Boba is going to be a pussy-ass character who's going to be knocked down a few pegs for another character. And the whole show doesn't care about Boba at all, and has no direction, and literally ignores him for 2 episodes. So if you don't get what I'm saying, the main problem with Boba in this show is that, well, he's not himself. I don't know too much about Boba in the EU, but I do know that the writers don't give a shit or know about basic character writing. And Boba was a very mysterious character, and we didn't know much about him other than the fact that he's kind of a shoot first, think later kind of character. And that's what made him really cool. And this show had a lot of potential of building up his character, exploring that mysterious part. So having him dick around in the desert for 5+ years with some Tusken Raiders doesn't make sense at all and does not fit his character. And the whole build up between the 4 episodes up until the Tusken Raiders die of having some sort of loving bond with Boba just doesn't fit him. He was always surrounded and raised with violence. And even in an episode of Clone Wars, he attempts to assassinate Mace Windu, blowing up a part of a ship and makes casualties, and even says this when he fails to kill him.
General Windu's quarters got hit, but he survived.
Survived?
He then goes on to blow up an entire fucking ship just to kill him. He's literally known for torturing his targets for information.
But I want them alive. No disintegration.
He is not a good person. So it's difficult to write him as a heartfelt character if he's been killing thousands of people. And using Tusken Raiders as a build-up for his softer side doesn't really make sense, and it's just a really poor way of writing, especially at the fact that they beat the shit out of him, enslave him, and drug him.
This ain't it, Chief!
After all of that, Boba still saw them as a family. It's so stupid and forced because it ties in with the rest of the plot that takes place in the present day when he's in Jabba's palace, fighting off the spice syndicate that did kill the family and is used as like a massive motivation for his anger. Now, instead of this Tusken Raider bullshit, if you really want to make him more of a lovable character, why wouldn't you just have a relationship between him and Fennec Shand? He did save her after all, and it would have been cool seeing them bond, and it would explain more on why she's so committed to being by his side. And I'm not saying a relationship of a romantic way, but as a partnership in the sense of like a sidekick. And we could still have all this crazy batshit stuff that he does, like, while giving him this kind of lovable soft spot of a side of a character that they were trying to develop. And perhaps through his actions, he influences us to think the same way, and then sees that, oh shit, I'm a pretty bad influence for my sidekick here. Maybe I should tone it down a little bit, and then have him struggle balance between being merciful and knowing when to make sacrifices to get the job done. I don't know, I feel like it would have fit his character a little bit more and would have made more sense to the story and grounded it a little bit better. The rest of the story outside of that is, it's alright. I kind of like that they're actually fighting off other crime organizations, or even Jabba's family that's trying to take back Mos Espa. I thought that was alright. But I honestly think the rest of the characters are just kind of mundane and boring, or just kind of there, kind of like Mando. Another problem is that the dialogue of Boba is just completely stupid. For example, the scene with the mayor's assistant, right-hand man, Sideho? We'll just go with Sideho. So the Sideho comes to greet Boba and pretty much pisses him off and disrespects him by, instead of giving him money as the leader of Mos Espa as a sign of respect, his ass asks for money.
Actually, there is one other matter, if I may. The matter of tribute.
And you expect Boba to either kill him or kick his ass for understanding what this goober's saying, or just drop him in the Rancor pit, but instead, Fennec Shand has to explain to him what the fuck he's saying.
He wants you to pay him.
Are you dumb?
I assume that the writers did this for the audience to understand the context of the dialogue, but if you're writing so bad and you don't even have the confidence for the audience to understand it, maybe it's time to go back to rewrite the draft. And while he's fucking leaving, he threatens him.
I would not be surprised if you receive another delegation in the near future.
Who mans is this? Get him the fuck out of here.
For fuck's sakes, just shoot him. Or have you seen a Boba getting up or dragging with his wrist rope? When I mean by wrist rope, I'm talking about the thing when Jango Fett used against Obi-Wan on Kamino. That thing, yeah. Why didn't he just use that on this dickhead? And then maybe drag his ass along the fucking floor while hitting his head on the steps and telling him to watch his tongue, and then have his little bitch ass running away to the mayor. And it would have made so much more sense because it would fit both their characters. If you still don't believe me that Boba is incompetent in his own show, let me just draw a contrast and compare one fight in Mandalorian and then one in Book of Boba Fett.
Drop it.
Now, do you see what I mean when Boba is not fucking Boba in his own show? And then in episode 4, when he gathers an army to stop the Spy Syndicate from taking over Mos Espa and have some sort of decent tension going, the writers just throw it away by completely derailing the story for another character that's not relevant at all. Then we come to the main argument and the main problem that everyone else has: the misplacement of Mando. And yeah, it was stupid for sure, but here's a hot take. I think it would have been fine if the episode connected to the overall story and he was only around for like one episode, not two. Because these two episodes could have been dedicated to so much more than just Mando. For example, the training with the Rancor and Boba, and they just skipped over that shit completely. Instead, we witnessed the unwriting of 2 seasons worth of work in 2 fucking episodes, just so Boba and Mando could go on some more crazy adventures. How does that even correlate with the story or Boba or Mos Espa? Another thing is that all these events were crucial for Season 3. What kind of moronic decision was that? Why am I learning and seeing shit about the Darksaber or fucking Luke Skywalker making the new Jedi Order in a show about Boba? What does any of that have to do with anything that's about Boba? I'll tell you what, terrible development. Now, why the hell was the show so all over the place? Well, let's set the stage. We'll have to go back in time a bit. Now, back in 2020, the filming of Mandalorian is taking place. Jon Favreau hires Robert Rodriguez to help direct the 6th episode of Mandalorian. The problem being is that the previous director was leaving for whatever reason, and then this left the show writers to scramble and trying to find a new director for the 6th episode in the 2nd season, last minute. They were impressed with his work when he made a 3-page scripted action scene into a 9-minute battle scene. And then we get to him landing in position in the making of Book of Boba Fett. And this is where the stupidity comes in. After the filming Season 2 in April of 2020, they began discussing the creation of Mando Season 3, but felt that the story of Boba was not fitting in after writing the first few drafts of Season 3. So they scrapped his story and turned it into a show that we now know. And this gives more context to why the show had so many bad plot conveniences and rushed story building. Both of the shows were being developed in the 6 to 5 month window time span. This is not enough time for a show or movie to turn out good. November rolls around and the cast thought they were filming Season 3 of Mando until they revealed that they were filming Book of Boba Fett. But for whatever reason, they even labeled the scripts as Season 3 Episode 1, 2, 3, and so on. Really showing more interest in wanting to connect Mando than focusing on Boba. And the reason of them focusing on bringing Mando and hijacking his own show for 12 episodes was, well, I don't think you're ready for this. Well, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau both stated that we both like Mando, and we felt that it would be difficult for us to go a whole season without seeing him, and so he's a friend of Boba's, so it makes sense to bring him back into the story. And that would have been okay if they added him as a side character for the final battle for episode 7, just, calling in for reinforcements, not completely fucking sidelining Boba's story on the show because you missed working on another show. If you wanted to keep on working on Mandalorian, why not pass on the creation of Boba Fett to another team? And the episodes Mando hijacked were also original drafts for the opening of season 3. Why didn't you just keep them for the actual season, and if you didn't like them, rewrite them? It's not that complicated. Another thing that ruined Book of Boba Fett was the undermining the reason and character traits he had just to build up another's. I'm talking about Fennec here. While doing research for this video, a part of the documentary I was watching on Disney Plus, Robert Rodriguez gives a really stupid reason on why they neutered Boba so much. So basically in the documentary, they're talking about how they want to bring up Fennec Shan as more of a bigger character in the show. And Robert Rodriguez states this on how he feels about her. Ming-Na brings an incredible swagger to her character. I generally bursted out into laughter when I first heard that. This is on the same level as this clip.
He leaps off of rooftops and flips backwards to face the camera before falling into a headfirst dive is just full of the exaggerated swagger of a black teen.
This is not the way to write a sidekick character. You don't want to undermine or make the main one an idiot just so the side one can look smarter or strong. I just feel that there's not enough time that was spent on developing the story of Boba Fett because of the restraints, poor drafting, and lots of misdirection on the story and characters. How it killed Star Wars. To me, the sole and last alive thing that most fans care about in the Star Wars franchise these days is Mando. After the death of the franchise with The Rise of Skywalker and it being resurrected with Mandalorian, it paved the way for new and good things for Star Wars to come out with. Mando, in a metaphorical sense, was Star Wars, in my opinion, and gave fans a new hope. But with Book of Boba Fett and the hijacking of it has injured and set up Mando, or the soul of Star Wars, for failure. And like I said before, all of the dumb stuff they did was bring back Mando and Baby Yoda, and milking the duo story will definitely drag down Mando's much needed development and exploration time of his character. They both needed more time away from each other from Mando to miss him. It was way too short of a break for them from the timeline of Star Wars because Book of Boba Fett picks up shortly after Mando Season 2. And the focus being way too much on the setup of Mando Season 3 than Boba also killed chances of both shows having a healthy amount of development time to having a good and well-written stories. And well, that's how Book of Boba Fett killed Star Wars in my opinion. Now the only good character in Book of Boba Fett was this lady right here because, well, she has big titty.